When networks banned the General Lee, John Schneider lost more than just a television program. Overnight, the merchandise deals vanished. His royalties ceased to arrive. A $200,000 personal vehicle was wrecked. However, the worst part wasn't even that. To pay his bills, he had to sell a signed General Lee hood for $25,000. Then Amazon began discussing the show's total removal. Schneider started a petition that received 50,000 signatures. The real battle, however, was only getting started. His remarks regarding hate symbols and free speech caused division in the nation. On April 8, 1960, John Richard Schneider was born in Mount Kiscoco, New York, a little community located roughly 45 miles north of Manhattan. Shirley and Jack Schneider, his parents, were employed in the civil service and continued to be involved in his day-to-day activities. He wasn't merely observing the surroundings, even as a little child. He was attempting to act in it. At the age of 5, he began performing for neighbors in his backyard after purchasing a basic magic kit for $5 from a nearby hobby store. Even though it was little and handcrafted, it made him feel something. He liked the sensation of people staring at him, awaiting the next trick, then responding when it was successful. His initial step was that small scarf illusion kit, and he continued to expand from there. At the age of 8 in 1968, he made his stage debut. He was cast as a munchkin in a New York City community theater performance of The Wizard of Oz. After school, he practiced for about 20 hours per week, earning $10 for his efforts. The most important thing was not the money. It was the cadence of practicing, sitting in the wings, getting cheers, and feeling like he was a part of something more than his local community. Then his life changed in an uncontrollable way. John's parents separated when he was 10 years old. Suddenly, the house that had seemed stable felt divided, and he felt isolated within. He began seeking solace in unleavable places, and television became one of them. He was drawn to westerns, particularly the 1959 to 1973 series Bonanza. His calm routine was to sit in front of the TV once a week. He would pretend to be a cowboy hero in his bedroom, simulating the gunfights with a toy revolver. He had a place to hide and a future to dream of thanks to those stories. He was gradually shaped into what he wanted to be by the Western sense of openness, adventure, and family themes. At the age of 14, another significant shift occurred in 1974. The family relocated to Atlanta, Georgia, after his mother got married again. A child from New York might have felt disoriented upon arriving in the South. However, John discovered a door that was ready for him. He quickly joined the theatrical club at North Springs High School. Theater served as a link between his past and present selves. He played Danny Zuko in the school's Grease performance, to blend in and give the part a sense of authenticity. In addition to learning how to adapt to a new culture without losing himself, he worked on his southern accents. He began to get sharper as a result of that acting and adapting combination. He was no longer merely picking up lines. He was learning how to change his identity at will. By the time he was 15, he was working hard for the dream with the type of enthusiasm that only a youngster with a strong desire can possess. In order to pay for acting lessons at a nearby community theater, he rode his bike to distribute newspapers. He didn't approach those classes as a pastime. He pursued genuine roles and was cast in a leading role in our town. He received the Georgia District Youth Award for Finest Dramatic Performance for his work there in 1975. The award struck him like evidence. It informed him that this was more than just a pleasant dream. He may chase it and possibly catch it. He also became interested in music at the age of 16. Using a borrowed guitar, he recorded his first demo tape in an Atlanta garage studio. He performed country renditions of Hank Williams songs such as Hey, Good Looking, and Lovesick Blues. Then, in the hopes that someone would accept, he walked those tapes into radio stations. Rather, he was turned down 12 times. He was told he lacked star power or was too young by others. That didn't deter him. He continued to appear until a sample was heard by one little station, WQXI. Even though it was a small moment, it felt enormous to him. Even a glimmer of light mattered after all those closed doors. He discovered that if the objective was genuine enough, you could take hits, music, and still keep going. He grew considerably larger in 1977 at the age of 17. During pilot season, he slept on friends' couches and stretched his money with inexpensive diner meals while traveling cross-country in a beat-up Ford from Atlanta to Los Angeles. He was trying to get into the company in whatever way he could. He was given an uncredited supplementary role in Smokey and the Bandit as a truck stop patron as a result of that push. He received $50 for the lengthy, roughly 12-hour filming. Even though the amount was little, it seemed like his first real payment from the world he desired. He got a taste of how crazy and dangerous the business could be by being close to actual sets and actors. Additionally, it demonstrated to him that he was near enough to touch it. He continued to balance performance and education as if his life relied on it back in Georgia. He performed locally, took vocal lessons, and even created an odd but entertaining performance that combined singing and magic. He would simultaneously extract a rabbit from a top hat and sing a country song at county fairs, causing audiences of about 200 people to applaud and giggle. These performances weren't nearly a joke. They taught him how to stay focused, sense timing, and avoid eye strain. He had a little agent in Atlanta by the time he graduated in 1978, and they began booking him. He appeared in 3 TV commercials, including ones for Coca-Cola and Georgia Peaches. He made a total of $900 after each one paid $300. He adapted his voice to the market's preferences and learned how to utilize a phony Southern drawl on command. He had to quickly adjust to every production, often with last-minute script changes. He learned a silent professional skill from that: how to give, follow instructions, and remain composed. All of that was leading up to the pivotal moment. When he was 18 in early 1979, he came across a trade advertisement for a new program that was seeking a 25-year-old Georgian redneck. On paper, John wasn't that. He was from New York and was younger. Therefore, before he even had the work, he made the decision to perform the most important role in his life, music. Acting as though he had spent his entire life in the South, he arrived to the audition sporting a country hat, chewing tobacco, a beer can, and beard. In order to sound exactly like what they wanted, he put on a thick accent and narrated wild country stories. It was so successful that he was chosen to play Bo Duke on the Dukes of Hazzard after defeating over 300 other applicants. In order to complete the picture, he also asserted that he had attended the Georgia School of High Performance Driving, despite the fact that such a school did not exist. He spoke like a man who was driven hard all his life until the audition shifted to automotive, music, skills. He moved quickly and instinctively across a faux car hood during the tryout. That maneuver turned into the well-known Duke slide, which was performed repeatedly on the show. A hasty instinct had become history, and a falsehood had become a hallmark. He signed his first significant deal for the show on March 15, 1979, for $5,000 an episode. He continued to keep his age and history a secret, knowing that it could all come crashing down if someone looked closely enough. However, the show proceeded and the gamble paid off. He poured himself into the work as soon as production began in California in April 1979. He had to make a fence jump in jeans for his first scene, and he hurt his ankle on the landing. Nevertheless, he persevered, completing the sequence and gaining respect on set for his willingness to put in a lot of effort. When John Schneider took the wheel of the General Lee for the inaugural season of Dukes of Hazzard in 1979, he was just 19 years old, and the crew soon saw that something was unusual about him. The majority of actors handled stunts carefully. They were like a challenge to Schneider. He welded the roll cage on a real 1969 Dodge Charger by hand in the 3rd episode, Days of Shine, and sent it hurtling down a 15-foot ramp over a pond. He was not taught to drive stunts. He simply held onto the steering wheel and followed his gut. The crew realized they would need more cars than they had anticipated when the car crashed so hard that the chassis twisted. Because jumps destroyed nearly all of the Chargers, some episodes burned through up to 14 of them. The car flew 82 feet before it was totaled, and the famed jump reached 16 feet in height during the opening titles. Although Schneider didn't execute every outrageous jump, the ones he did had a raw fire that gave Bo Duke a genuine feel. To him, the General Lee became more than just a vehicle. Offset. He named it Little Bo Peep after purchasing his own orange Charger. He accelerated it to 140 miles per hour on deserted back roads to test the car's handling capabilities before returning to the exhibition. He treated another Charger with a 426 Hemi engine like a trophy after restoring it. A bidder once made a nearly $10 million offer for it at auction, but the bid was a ruse, and the automobile remained with the bidder. That same automobile was wrecked by a tree during Hurricane Ida years later. It was like losing a piece of himself when he lost it. He had worked long nights with these equipment, welded wheel cages, and fixed dents. Every scene had a flair because of that connection. Schneider and Tom Wopat continued the beat even after the cameras stopped. They founded the Duke Boys Band, a tiny country band, during their downtime. They passed a guitar back and forth like brothers while performing at charity events, cast parties, and snorts bars. They collaborated to write a song titled Hazzard Highway in 1980 following a hiatus in Georgia. They performed it at reunions for years even though it was never formally released. The two of them singing Good Old Boys and laughing like they were back in Hazzard County delighted the crowds when they appeared on stage. Long after the scenes were over, their music continued to foster their friendships. On set, things weren't always easy. While filming episode 45 in 1981, a fan got past security one night with what seemed to be a pistol. Schneider ran forward without thinking and threw him directly onto a bale of hay. Schneider's quick reaction caused the entire set to freeze as security raced in and took the man into custody. He later made a joke about it being Bo Duke justice, but it was still dangerous. At the time, nobody realized the gun was a fake. It turned into one of the most startling behind-the-scenes tales and served as a warning about the peculiar and dangerous nature of celebrity. The show had taken off by the conclusion of season 3. Schneider began to receive almost 2,000 letters each week as fan mail increased by 500%. He attempted to respond to as many requests from fans as he could for sketches of General Lee. His pay was up to $10,000 every episode when CBS recognized the demand. A year later, when he and Tom Wopat argued with the studio about money related to goods, the publicity again provided him leverage. However, the event afforded him an unexpected musical opportunity before to that storm. Schneider spent long nights dreaming about recording and long days filming throughout 1981. After filming, he traveled directly to Nashville one weekend and checked into a small demo studio to record a song he had written called Ain't You Glad? He continued to play the guitar for 10 hours. Something about the take felt genuine, even if his voice was scratchy from fatigue. When producer Mike Curb accidentally heard the demo, he was taken aback by Schneider's gritty voice. He made him an offer from Scott Brothers Records the following day. Schneider released Now or Never at the end of the year and saw it rise to the 8th spot in the national charts. It demonstrated that he wasn't merely a TV personality who sang for pleasure. He had something genuine. He signed a contract with MCA Nashville in 1984, 3 years later. He wanted to earn his spot on this heavyweight label. He put himself through a 48-hour recording marathon and co-produced portions of his album, Too Good to Stop Now. He didn't get much sleep. He sent I've Been Around Enough to Know, his debut hit, to radio stations all around the nation after finishing it. 15 stations declined. He persisted in phoning, sending cassettes, and attempting lesser areas until one Shreveport station gave him a chance. The song quickly rose to the top of the country charts and remained there for 2 weeks. Music. He had established himself as a true crossover success with a foot in two worlds by the time the record sold 500,000 copies. Touring came next. He performed from Tennessee to Texas in 1985, packing venues with crowds of over 5,000 people. However, calamity, music, happened on the way to a big show. More than $20,000 worth of equipment was destroyed when the equipment truck carrying his band's instruments crashed on the highway. Schneider remained composed while the musicians panicked. He borrowed everything he could and called acquaintances in the industry. He borrowed his prized Fender Teller from a country music singer. Schneider put on one of his best performances that evening after taking the stage using borrowed equipment. Later, admirers claimed to have sensed the resolve in each note. When he published A Memory Like You in 1986, it was his next significant move. On the country charts, it made its debut at the top. He asked Johnny Cash to perform with him at a special concert in Nashville. The two easily shared the stage as Cash played his distinctive guitar. As a token of respect, they exchanged personalized dusters following the performance, one featuring embroidered eagles and the other bearing the General Lee symbol. Collectors are still searching for the limited edition vinyl that was created from the concert recording. His schedule peaked in 1987. In the same year, he performed 50 shows and shot 30 Dukes of Hazzard episodes, earning almost $1 million. He was overcome by the pressure. After 2 performances in Nashville and Atlanta, his voice gave up entirely. A 2-month hiatus was mandated by the doctors. He went to Colorado around that period to receive instruction from a renowned yodeling coach who helped him completely reconstruct his voice. Audiences could see he was singing with more confidence and control when he returned. Then came the turning point in the history of television. Schneider and Watt left the set immediately following Season 4, Episode 13, in February 1982. 1 million copies of the General Lee toy alone had been sold, and neither actor was getting a cut of the proceeds. In a contentious 2-hour meeting, Schneider challenged the producers and insisted on a fair contract. Although she remained on the show, Catherine Bach secretly backed them. In response, Warner Brothers substituted 2 new cousins, Coy and Vance, for the two. The fans were incensed. Within weeks, ratings fell by nearly 20%, and critics referred to the new characters as empty copies. CBS worried as advertisers complained. Schneider and Watt were promised a 40% raise and a 5% portion of merchandise revenues by the network. Schneider refused to go back until the deal was finalized, having seen all of this from Atlanta. He was financially exhausted by the fight. He had to pawn his gold Dukes of Hazzard watch for $5,000 in order to pay his bills during the 3-month impasse. His first check was for $50,000 when the royalty contract eventually materialized. He went directly back to the pawn shop to retrieve the watch. It came to represent the extent to which he was prepared to defend everything he had gained. The studio allowed Schneider to influence a portion of the screenplay when he and Watt returned for the October 1982 Season 5 premiere. He requested a monologue in which Bo Duke discussed standing up for what is rightfully yours. The walkout served as its direct inspiration. The silent message caught the attention of fans, who adored it. For actors seeking equitable contracts on other shows, the event raised new standards. One of the first companies to do so was Cheers. When the Dukes of Hazzard came to an end in February 1985, John Schneider felt the ground move beneath his feet. He was a celebrity in an orange Charger named Bo Duke one day, and the next he was standing silently, waiting for the phone to ring. 2 years later, he got his first significant opportunity when he played Ree in the 1987 television film Christmas Comes to Willow Creek. The cozy ambience of Hazzard County was nothing like the set. He was at Dawson City, Yukon, when it was 20 degrees below zero, there was white snow, and the air was frozen. He shed 15 pounds while filming and adhered to a rigorous music diet to appear exhausted. He later claimed that the cold forced him to delve deeper into a character than he had ever done before the film's December 20, 1987, premiere. He was struggling to break out from Bo Duke's shadow by 1989. In The Rawhide Trail, a miniseries that barely lasted 2 episodes before disappearing from the ratings, he played an investigator. It served as a painful reminder that he was being forced to adopt a stereotypically Southern charm persona that he found impossible to escape. He tried out for about 50 pilots over the course of the following few years, including MacGyver, but Richard Dean Anderson was chosen for the part. Even though he tried to modify it, he subsequently claimed that every rejection made him feel like he was stuck in the same costume. Then a moment occurred that no one anticipated. John Schneider used his own money to establish John Schneider Studios in 1990 rather than waiting for Hollywood to make a decision about his future. He invested $100,000 of his own funds when banks refused to lend him $1, claiming that his reputation as a hillbilly rendered him too hazardous. On his own farm in Louisiana, he constructed post-production rooms and a soundstage. It was audacious. It was dangerous. It was a man reshaping his career on broad southern countryside and removing it from Hollywood's control. His passion returned to music in 1992. During one of the most difficult times of his life, he recorded Come Morning in a tiny home studio. Around this period, his marriage to Ellie Castle started to deteriorate, and the songs reflected that. It felt like a quiet triumph when the album peaked at number 15 on the Billboard country charts. Evidence that he was still able to speak to those in need despite the chaos. In 1995, he directed an episode of the Highway to Heaven relaunch from behind the camera. He wanted familiar hands on the task, so he brought back members of his former Duke staff. But in order to keep the program going, he had to pay $20,000 out of pocket when stunt crashes destroyed the budget. In the end, it aired, but he left with a new realization that sometimes directing meant spending money just to tell a narrative. When he entered a Smallville audition room in 2001, everything changed. For Jonathan Kent, over 100 actors had tried out. However, the crowd fell silent when Schneider started making up a paternal speech on the farm set. He was immediately cast by the producers. As cast members came and departed, he became one of the show's emotional pillars thanks to his decision, which saw him through 217 episodes over 10 seasons. He gained it by following one gut feeling, and it turned out to be one of the most significant responsibilities of his life. Later on in the series, he directed 4 episodes. In the legacy episode of Season 3, he inserted a bit of Superman history that was based on actual interviews with Jerry Siegel's family. Although it was a minor rewrite, many observed that it made the tale more complex. Schneider seemed to have delicately incorporated elements from Superman's early history into contemporary television. But problems arose in 2005. In Season 5, the producers intended to eliminate Jonathan Kent. Schneider opposed the notion. He pushed back, argued, and even made threats to leave. He finally consented to stay, but only if the death was captured on camera in an actual cornfield in Kansas. One of the most poignant scenes in the entire series was the memorial episode. Fans were aware of its importance. The weight he put into it was palpable to them. He shifted away from heroic roles in 2006 to play a corrupt sheriff on CSI Miami. He received an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Guest Actor in a Drama Series for his incisive portrayal, which is nearly unprecedented for a 2-episode engagement. Audiences that believed they knew him were taken aback. All at once, he was more than the amiable Duke or the good-natured father. And he might be dangerous. Due to years of consistent rolling and residual checks, Johnny had a net worth of about $4 million when Smallville concluded in 2011. However, when he sold assigned General Lee Hood for $25,000 to help finance his Louisiana property, people were taken aback. People were stunned to part with such a famous piece. It demonstrated that he was always willing to use the past to promote the future and that he valued life more than souvenirs. Then there was a storm that beyond any fan outrage. Due to the Confederate flag on the General Lee, TV Land stopped airing Dukes of Hazzard reruns in July 2015, following the Charleston church incident. Warner Brothers discontinued licensing all flag-related items, ending sales of over 300 episodes and innumerable model cars. Schneider immediately took to Twitter in a rage. He asserted that the show embodied joy, family, and Southern heart and claimed that they were erasing history. His remarks went viral. The Confederate flag was taken down from South Carolina's Capitol grounds that same month, sparking a national discussion. Pain, politics, and pop culture all came together at once. Schneider started a petition since the loss of licensing also cost him a significant amount of royalties. Over 50,000 fans signed up. He told Fox that viewers had watched the show for decades without associating it with racism and that the automobile was never a hate symbol. For him, the matter became quite personal, both financially and emotionally. Following George Floyd's assassination, the debate reappeared in June 2020 amid countrywide demonstrations. Amazon contemplated removing the program from its streaming service. In interviews, Schneider retaliated, claiming that he had never once received a complaint from a black fan and that the show's removal would further polarize society. The discussion heated up after NASCAR recently banned Confederate flags from its races. As the nation debated what symbols should imply, the fate of the entire 7-season series was in jeopardy. Hurricane Ida devastated Louisiana in August 2021, a year later. A $200,000 personal General Lee was destroyed when one of Schneider's barns collapsed. With the flag still visible on its roof, he shared the crushed orange Charger on Facebook. Even when the storm demolished his Studio 2 home, he grinned despite the loss and remarked, "She'll jump again." It was a blow that simultaneously affected his legacy and his life. He started talking candidly about why the battle for General Lee was important to him by 2025. He said that it had nothing to do with Confederate defense but rather with free expression. He referred to the dispute as a war on American history and cautioned against banning traditional symbols. He cited the extensive list of devoted viewers from all walks of life. It turned into a personal position that he felt he had to defend above and beyond sentimentality or financial gain. Schneider continued to construct despite the chaos all around him. He celebrated his 58th birthday on April 8, 2018, with a leap that seemed to be from his time at Duke. At his Louisiana studio, he launched a real General Lee over a 75-foot ramp, lifting it close to 30 feet into the air as spectators applauded. It took place during Bose's Fiesta, a gathering of hundreds of fans. Everyone was reminded of why they initially fell in love with Bo Duke during that particular time. From 2013 to 2021, he performed in over 500 emotionally charged moments on the haves and the have-nots. His unadulterated intensity and ability to go from composed to explosive in a single breath were commended by Tyler Perry. Every time Jim Cryer had a tantrum or confrontation, fans went crazy on the internet. Schneider demonstrated that he could dominate a scene without ever raising his voice by holding his own in a group of powerful actors. After 21 years of marriage, he divorced Alva Castle in 2014, and his personal life collapsed. He was forced into bankruptcy as a result of the financial consequences. Alimony court fights resulted in public annoyance and community service. However, he started a YouTube channel rather than vanishing. He shared personal narratives, studio updates, and music covers. The channel reached 16,000 subscribers in a matter of days. It turned into his lifeline, proving that you can rebuild with the remnants of what has been destroyed by life.